Welcome to the Conservatory of Dark Delights podcast, formerly the Taboo podcast. We are here teaching, supporting, and inspiring adventurous individuals to embrace their dark, sensual desires, delight in the embodiment and mindset of their authentic pleasures, and live a life inspired by erotic arts, sacred sexuality, mystic witch kinkery, and the Kama Sutra. So we are recording live January 6th, 2025. It's great to be back in the wonderful new year. I am taking a few liberties with pauses for throat clearing. I'm still getting over long COVID. The gift that keeps on giving, but I'm happy to be here in 2025, bringing you a brand new episode. And this episode is going to focus on my story. This is my reason for doing everything I do. And I've told shortened versions of the story, sort of cliff notes or abridged, but I haven't told my whole story, and I don't know why. Though a lot of the work I've been doing recently, internally, has led me to believe that I really need to share this story with you. And the whole point of sharing the story, the whole reason for what I do, is to help others achieve what I've achieved, and that's not being ashamed of who I am and the dark desires that I have. In the world we live in, there is a lot of censorship, and I've been there, and I know the way through, and I know how to become your authentic self, enjoying your most wicked desires, and still being a good person, still being wonderful. I know so many times women of a certain age, my age, have heard, good girls don't do that. That's a honking load of bullshit. Good girls absolutely do it, and bad girls do it even better, but just being a little silly. So, let me take you back. Let me tell you where I come from. I grew up in a really backward place in the United States. And it was a long time ago, and things have changed in that location since then, so I won't name it. Suffice it to say, it was filled with ultra-conservative, fundamentalist, extremists, and essentially a very cult-active area. I lived amongst the Amish, but not as an Amish. And to be completely honest, the Amish were the least of the concerns of what I went through. They have their own issues, their own modern issues, or issues that people would nowadays consider to be problematic. At the time, they did treat me as they treated everybody else, and it was not bad. There were, however, fundamentalist Christian extremist cults very active in that area. And as my parents both worked, I was often being babysat by these people. And it was long dresses and not listening to any kind of pop music, no modern culture. And it was all about it was all about Jesus and how Jesus loved us, and how, which is great. That is absolutely fantastic. And if that is your way of believing, that is fine. But the amount of control and the messaging that went beyond that, of how women were to be subservient and obedient and do whatever they're told and not to have opinions. In my 20s, my late 20s, when I had gotten away, I can give you some look backs into some of the ways I was damaged. I used to be terrified by Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh because people were always ripping off his tail and trying to pin it on him. And I thought this was horrifying and cruel. Back where I used to live, we didn't really have birthday parties, or my parents, not being of the cultish way, did celebrate my birthday, but no one ever came. So I never had an experience with a party game called Pin the Tail on the Donkey. This is something simple that nearly every child knows, and I had never encountered it because we didn't really celebrate birthdays, and we didn't really play a lot of games. And Dungeons and Dragons, which to some extent I enjoy now, was considered the inroad into hell, into the devil. You were simply a devil worshiper. And the Christian devil. I know now Satanism is a religion in its own right, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with what they believe. I am recording live. You do hear my rabbit having fun in the background. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with they believe, but the Christian devil, the evil one, games and music and movies would all bring you to this. There were times when I was finding my own way and finding my way into more earth-based religions, paganism, through my father's side of the family, when the cultish people in this area caught wind of it, they invited me to watch a movie. Of course, like a Christian movie. And when I got to the house, I was instantly locked into the closet, and they would beat on the doors and scream things at me and tell me how I had to accept Jesus into my life, otherwise I'd be burning in hell, and they couldn't let me go until I had seen the light, as it were, until I accepted Jesus as my savior. And it's terrifying. It's terrifying to be trapped in such a small, dark place and know that you may not get out unless you betray your God or gods that you believe in and say you believe in their God. And it was then that I knew that my God would want me to do everything I could to survive and get out of there. So I did. I confessed belief, and I got out, and I prayed for forgiveness to my own God, and it was absolutely terrifying. Now compound this ultra religious environment with my father's collection of Marquis de Sade books and pornography, which I basically started reading at a very young age, very under 18 age, almost 10 years under 18. I learned my sex education was wild. And I even managed to watch some videos that my father had, and my sex education was wild, and I was deeply, deeply confused. When you are trapped and being force-fed, brainwashed, these Christian extremist, fundamentalist ideas, no matter how much you resist, part of it gets into you. And I thought there was something horrifically wrong with me. And I felt that way for a long time, through 10 years of therapy, through years of coaching, through years of studying psychology and coaching, from now being trauma-informed, becoming trauma-informed. It's something that takes a Herculean effort to overcome, to learn to trust yourself, to learn that it's okay. Your physical desires are okay. The fundamentalists, the extremists, had really moved you into your mind and made you curse your body. And again, as a child, as a youth, it's hard to have your own impressions. Your brain is still forming, and you have all these people telling you this. So now embodiment has become so important to me. Being okay with my body, being okay with how my body feels, being okay with the desires that my body wants, knowing that they are just as holy as anything. And I tell this story pretty easily. But it's because I've had so much therapy. And in part, I think I've been inspired by some of the things I've watched on YouTube where cult survivors have talked about it. And there are many, many more examples, and maybe they'll come up in the future of stories of things that have happened to me that are horrifying. Besides never being exposed to Pin the Tail on the Donkey, I have a huge cultural gap from the time I lived there where I don't know movies or things that were common or popular. It was a whole other world. And it was a world of shame and self-hatred, especially focused in the area of sexuality. And I have learned to come through that shame. And I live to help people deal with that shame, move it out of their lives, process it so that they can enjoy and experience the physical pleasures that I believe the gods have given to us. We can take religion out of the equation and enjoy the body that you have for the time that you have it. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nevertheless, there's a lot that you have to work through and overcome. And the shame messaging continues even today, even in average pop culture now, what's normal. The shaming of women, of how they shouldn't feel this way, of how if they take 100 dicks before they meet the one they're going to marry, that they're sluts, but yet if a guy takes 100 pussies, he's a hero. It's ridiculous. And I'm here to help women and men and people of all genders not buy into that type of messaging. And if they have bought into it, I'm here to help you refund that, return that, and get a refund. That is not messaging that you need in your life. So, this is the reason I do what I do. Because I've been in the place of shame. And when I came to BDSM, when I came to these dark delights, I discovered freedom like I had never known before. And one of the most important things to me when I went to that first dungeon that my old friend convinced me to go to was that they told me about consent. That no one would touch me if I didn't want it. It was only through BDSM and people who practice these dark delights that I learned about body autonomy and consent, that I have a right over my body. I didn't get taught that in the fundamentalist extremist cult Christian place. I was taught that my body wasn't mine. My relationship with my body began with BDSM, with these dark delights, with these pleasures, and learning that, above all, it's my body. The way has not been easy. I am here to guide as many people as I can, those who want to go, who want to find body autonomy, find consent within themselves. I am here to help you. And this is essentially the reason I do what I do, because I've had such horrifyingly bad experiences that I don't want anybody else to have them. So I'm here to help you as much as I can. Thank you for listening. That's going to be the podcast for today. And I want to say that I am devoted to creating a world that fosters acceptance and affection of individuals who express their dark sensuality with wild abandon. I use digital creations, one digital creation at a time, including books, membership and community, online courses, live workshops, meditations, podcasts, and other digital products. And the Conservatory of Dark Delights is dedicated to holding safer and inclusive spaces for anyone who wants to explore dark sensuality, kink, fetish, BDSM, including but not limited to individuals who are BIPOC like me, LGBTQIA+, Furry, Pagan, and allies who are committed to the values of consent, bodily autonomy, respect, acceptance, and support for all members of this community. So with that, I do kindly ask that if anybody listening or members of this community who do not share, I ask that you share these values to ensure a welcoming environment for everyone. And if you don't share these values, this may not be the place for you. And I encourage you to take it to heart and think about it. Thanks for listening, everyone. And I will see you on the next episode of the Conservatory of Dark Delights, formerly the Talkin Taboo podcast.